Thank you everyone for joining the webinar today. My name is Tim with Serna Solutions, and today we're going to be talking about preparing your next ServiceNow upgrade like a pro. And the reason why we're doing this webinar specifically is because we've worked with a number of customers that have come to us and talked about how it is difficult for them with certain upgrades and how not every upgrade over the past couple of years has been the same. There have been a lot of intricacies and a lot of things to know before you go ahead and get started. So we went ahead and talked to a number of our experts about it. We came up with this list, and we wanted to go ahead and just present this information and kind of give you guys an insight into what we go through before we go ahead and run an upgrade for a customer. We will be answering questions at the end of this webinar, so if anyone has gone ahead and entered those questions throughout, we'll definitely make sure to address everyone that we can and everyone that we have time to. And we will be sending out a copy of this webinar to everyone on the attendee list, so if you guys want to share this with anyone else in your team or access this for later, you'll absolutely be able to do that. For those of you that do not know or that aren't familiar with Serna Solutions already, Serna Solutions specializes in ServiceNow consulting, implementations, integrations, and unique product offerings. And a lot of what we do is specifically what we're talking about today, which is helping customers through some of the less common features of ServiceNow, some of the highly specialized projects that they may be wanting to do to really take ServiceNow into its full potential. We focus on service portal consulting, test management services and solutions, as well as automated testing solutions, and remote administrative services like our virtual admin program. So let's go ahead and talk about a few of the solutions that Serna Solutions offers that is specific to this subject matter. And we'll try to get some of this information out of the way ahead of time so that we can jump right into the information that most people came here to the webinar for. But something that we are definitely going to talk about, something that you should know about, is our Cerna application. And if you're looking to do an upgrade, documentation is absolutely mission critical. And what Cerna does is it automatically documents any changes made to your ServiceNow instance. It also allows you to interactively drill down into the specific features of ServiceNow through the exhaustive data that you have in there so that you can easily find exactly what you're looking for and get the information that you need. It also allows for comprehensive reporting across ServiceNow for features such as system properties and plugins and tables and business rules and client scripts, SOAP and REST messages, basically, anything that you actually need that information for, and it allows you to see the actual script used for those features. We'll also be talking a little bit about the best practice checker, which allows you to find problems in your instance before they become a bigger problem. It also generates comprehensive reports of potential problems, suggested fixes, and detailed explanation of any failures that you may have in your system. And this and Cerna are both essential components of any upgrade, maintenance, or performance evaluation that you may be doing on ServiceNow. And we will be touching on them lightly in this presentation. We'll also talk just a little bit right now about Capio, which is our automated testing platform for ServiceNow, which was honestly one of the first automated testing solutions on the market specifically geared for ServiceNow. And since that time, we've been able to grow the system into a very robust tool that allows you to easily test beyond anything in ServiceNow, including your service catalog, knowledge base, service portal, and much more, which you'll see a little bit later on. You're also able to run entire test plans while unattended and spread that across multiple machines, where alternatively, other automated testing solutions may require you to sit in front of your machine and manually kick off the next test, making both that machine and that employee fairly unusable until those tests are done. And sometimes you have to repeat those tests all over again with your next browser. So if you have any questions about any of these, definitely feel free to reach out to us and let us know. We'd be happy to talk to you about that. And very specifically, Cerna and the Best Practice Checker are services that we provide at no additional cost to our customers. And if you'd like some information about how you can gain access to those services, even if you're not already a customer, let us know and we'd love to talk to you about that. So right now, I would like to introduce to you William Smith, the technical consultant who's going to be leading this presentation. Will has 7 years of service level management experience in the IT field and over 3 years of ServiceNow consulting. He's done a number of upgrades for our company and others, and we're very excited to have him. He is ITIL V3 certified and a Six Sigma Yellow Belt, to name a few. Will, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Tim. Thanks. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm really looking forward to walking you through your next upgrade, and I think you'll find there's quite a few bits of information that you're going to be able to take back with you. So let's talk about today's agenda. What are we going to do today? Well, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get prepared for the next upgrade that's coming your way. I'm going to walk you through the upgrade process, and so we're going to talk about the 3 types of release cycles that ServiceNow releases. They have a major release or a feature release once a year. They deliver a patch release out to support functionality and solve a number of issues. There's also a hotfix release, which are used to fix a targeted or a specific issue that a customer is facing. Then we're going to talk about how to get proactive with your upgrade, how to get in front of this release cycle and make sure that when you get your next release, it comes through smoothly. And last, we'll take any questions you guys may have. So with the recent releases that we've had, we noticed that some of them were a bit painful for our customers, and we're going to walk through that real quick. The Helsinki release was quite painful for some of our customers, and we heard customers say that Knowledge v3 was especially painful for them. The new version, which was much more powerful and had many features, also brought with it a lot of time and investment in migrating categories and content over from version 2. So you want to make sure you weigh the cost when you're looking at new features. And like I said, Helsinki offered more features, but with those features came additional complexities and time and research costs. The Istanbul release was a little bit better. However, Knowledge Base v3 was improved. It also brought some issues with the newly released service portal. And with the addition of scoped applications, that brought more time and more research that's going to be needed when you prepare for your next upgrade. Now we come to Jakarta. It was the smoothest release I've ever seen. I just recently upgraded a customer on the Jakarta release, and it went almost flawlessly. We just had one little issue. So Jakarta brought with it major improvements on the service portal, as well as those scoped applications we talked about. And one of the new features is batched update sets. So now you can group your update sets together and release them faster and with less errors. So the Helsinki release added much needed functionality. However, doing your research was really necessary because the update process itself was a bit painful. Istanbul made necessary improvements for all those sensitive data with the scoped applications. And so now your IT folks don't have access to the HR profiles and all of the sensitive information that they may have had. With Jakarta, it greatly improved the release process and smoothed out some of the rough edges. All right, so now we're going to talk about how to prepare for your upgrade. How do you actually go about getting prepared? So as you can see here, that's me in the red cardigan looking dapper while preparing for my next upgrade. And these are some easy mistakes that you can make and that I've made in the past and I learned from when making your next upgrade. So the first one is not researching your past updates. You want to make sure that you do your research and do your homework on the updates that are coming your way so that you can be prepared and know which parts of the application you want to install. Not checking for missing items. So with those missing items, I recently had a customer that I upgraded where when I was a new admin, it's kind of one of those situations where you don't know what you don't know. And so I ran into an issue where I didn't check for all of the skipped updates. And so there were potentially hundreds of things out there that were not implemented into the release that needed to be fixed. And I was able to figure that out with help and go back and make all those changes so everybody was happy in the end. Reinventing the wheel. So you want to make sure that when you're doing your upgrade that you're talking to your peers and people in the ServiceNow community who have done this before you. I'm sure they've got techniques and tips to make sure that you get everything and you catch all of the issues that are going to happen. And the last one is always assuming the happy path, right? Sometimes an upgrade doesn't go smoothly, and so you want to make sure that you account for all of those edge cases and all of those odd scenarios like mobile devices. It may only be 1 to 2% of your corporation, but most of the time, those people are loud and vocal when something happens on their mobile device. So some of the results from making these mistakes that can happen to you is time wasted on rebuilds. You waste time with rebuilding and redoing some work that you've already done in the past, or having to go back and fix stuff that occurred. Another result could be bugs in production. So my boss sitting over there in the green does not like bugs, especially in production. You want to make sure that you can easily fix those bugs that do make it in. And the last result is decreased buy-in from end users. If you're not pushing a stable product, nobody's going to want to use it, whether it's ServiceNow or something else. So you definitely want to make sure that you avoid these mistakes so that you can have happy customers. So how often does your team say, every time there's an upgrade, something breaks? If so, you're spending more money on repairs and fixes than you need to. A bad release impacts your entire business, not just IT. The ServiceNow platform affects every area of the business. It includes HR and facilities. And so you want to make sure that your release is solid across the entire enterprise. If employees aren't using ServiceNow, your business is losing its ROI. And so you want to make sure that the customer-facing items like the service portal and your top hits like incident, problem, and change, make sure those things are solid when you move to production. All right, so here's a little tip from me to you. These things are good to do even when you're not upgrading. So identify modules that are being used by your organization. And you can do this by looking at the stories and requirements from past projects, looking through the update log to see all of the updates that have been made to your system. You can also take a look through business rules and client scripts and make sure that you get an understanding of how your system is functioning and all the business logic that's running behind it. You could also use a documentation tool such as Cerna, which already does all this documentation for you. Let's take a quick look at how Cerna can help you prepare for your next upgrade. So here's our Cerna example. And you can see here that it's documenting the instance. It's giving you the name, when the report was generated. And up here at the top, we documented all of the custom application scopes that have been performed against your instance. So you can see we've got all the customizations, and then it lists global at the end because it's typically the biggest. With Cerna, you can navigate through to easily find all of the changes that happened in your instance. I'm going to click on this RSS reader. At the top, we have all the tables and script includes and UI pages and things that Tim talked about that you can look at and you can see that have been customized. Who did the customization and some of the high-level details. But one of the nice things is you can also drill down even further. So if I click on this script include, I can see all the fields on the form as well as the script that's actually being used inside the script include. So it lets you get a real good view of what's going on in your instance. All right, step number 2 to prepare for your upgrade is to get a list of catalog items and record producers to be tested. You also want to make sure you identify all the front-facing service portals and CMS interfaces so that you can test all of the functionality, that you don't have any font issues or just weird glitches going on with backgrounds that don't show up. When you're preparing for your upgrade, you definitely want to document any commonly used mobile devices or tablets. So since we're moving to a mobile-first world, mobile devices are used more and more, and ServiceNow is preparing for that. So you want to make sure that you test those mobile devices. You also want to make sure you build a checklist of test cases. So you could do it in a notebook like this guy, or painstakingly go through each application and write down a list of test cases. Or you could use a tool like Cerna that will tell you what custom modules have been enhanced in your instance. You could certainly also use a list of stories and knowledge from your administrator and developer. Whatever method you choose above, make sure you write and save those test cases so that you can get to them later and reuse them. And you always want to make sure you run a best practice checker to find areas that are likely to break during an upgrade. Our best practice checker is a fantastic way to give your system a checkup, and it's always good to run this months before an upgrade, so that way you can know what areas you need to work on. Let's take a look at the best practice. So here you can see from the example report that it lists out the areas that you've done really well in. You got an A+, good job. It also shows you areas that you need work in, things like avoiding DOM manipulation and asynchronous data lookups. In this quick table, it'll list out how many issues it found, as well as the number of hours it thinks it's going to take you to remediate these problems. And lowered below, and further down, it shows you the details of what it found, as well as a link for the best practice. When you're preparing for your next upgrade, some advanced skills that you can take is automating your testing process. So we all want to get to automation, right? One of the more common things that happens when you're writing your test cases and you're preparing for the upgrade is you're developing on ABC. Well, unfortunately, that can have ripple effects that's going to break system X down the line that you can't even see. So automating your testing process allows you to test more reliably, way more reliably. You can write test cases that can be repeated and reused. And again, it allows you to test beyond what you can predict. So when you're doing automated testing with a tool like Capio, it allows you to test solutions from A to Z. So I'm going to quickly walk you through how to actually perform an upgrade, and then we'll talk about some common ways to get proactive. So first step is you want to clone over your instance from production, typically dev or test. Then you want to apply the upgrade. Also make sure you record how long this takes. Last time I did an upgrade with Jakarta, it took about 2 hours, but if it takes anywhere, 6, 8, 10 hours, you may want to reach out for some support and see if there's something going on there. You definitely want to review those skip logs like I talked about earlier. You also want to run all your test cases and develop any fixes as needed. Make sure you take a backup of your update sets so that way you can reapply them when you clone. Again, you're going to do a secondary clone once you've done all your testing. Now you're going to go ahead and actually perform the upgrade or have the I team perform the upgrade. You're going to commit the update sets and performing any manual steps. This is a dry run for go live. And then you're going to test steps C through H repeatedly until everything tests clean, making sure that you run all those test cases and get those fixes taken care of. Once you're done with that, your production's solid, you're ready for go live. Go ahead and throw a party. All right, so let's get proactive on our next upgrade. So we're going to talk about 5 R's of proactive upgrade planning. Our first R is research. We want to make sure that we know what the new version has in it, what features it's going to bring along that we want to enable. So for example, our example, knowledge base version 3, we want to research all of the new features and enhancements and compare them against our current update to make sure that we're ready to go when the release comes. Our second R is runbook. We want to ask, what do we do this time that we can save for our next upgrade? It's almost like a playbook or a map that you can walk through whenever you have an upgrade, because these come once a year, so they're coming at you, and you want to make sure you get prepared. The last one is revisit. The next one is revisit. What are we doing between updates to consider for next time? This is something you're going to be doing throughout the year as you continuously prepare for your next upgrade cycle. Next, we have regression. What tests were created that we can reuse? If you're doing manual testing once a month, you better make sure you have a hardcore test plan. You're going to need to test more than once a month and even more than once per upgrade. So if you do the math, testing once per month and once per upgrade, that's only 14 tests a year. If you move to an automated solution, you can test each sprint. You are doing your tests, right? You are writing your tests? Good. All right, our last R of proactive upgrade planning is robotize. So you want to ask the question, would we benefit from an automated testing process? If you choose a tool like Capio or any tool that you choose, make sure that it has a central repository so you can save any code and notes and test plans, and they're all kept in one place. Instead of just testing when you're doing an upgrade, using an automated testing solution will allow you to test at the end of every sprint or even during your sprints. You'll also be able to run a test of all the features. Like we said, from A to Z, you can test everything from service portal to forms, lists. You could even test those hard to reach areas. So I want to thank you guys for attending today, and I'm going to kick it back over to Tim for some questions.
Yeah, thanks, Will. So I saw some questions that had come in that we did definitely want to make sure that we address, and a few other points that I think we may just want to, double back on and just to talk a little bit about. When you were talking about the pain points for Helsinki and Istanbul and Jakarta, can you tell me a little bit more, like what was the specific issues that people were having with the KBV3?
All right, so the knowledge base version 3 brought along a host of great features, but you also want to make sure that you look into some of the things that might trip you up. So things like updates to the way categories and the entire layout and architecture of the knowledge base. Knowledge base version 3 gives you the ability to add multiple knowledge bases. So that's something you may want to take a look at. Instead of putting all your eggs in one basket, you can now spread them around and have knowledge bases for IT and knowledge bases for HR. What other questions do we have, Tim?
Sure. So it sounds like, based on everything you're saying, that knowing a lot about the next version before you jump into it, or even kind of waiting until other people have tried it first, seems to be sometimes the best way to do that. What about with the Kingston, the newest release coming out? What do people need to know before they, not before they decide to do it, because it's always a good idea to do it, but what do they need to know before they start planning the actual upgrade?
Yeah, great question. So ServiceNow is always enhancing features and making new releases. So you want to make sure that you do your research before you upgrade to Kingston or even the next release after that, which is London. So I'm not entirely sure if there's anything that needs a major rebuild at this point, but I have heard that there is a new codeless design tool that might help you build diagrams and diagram flows for any cloud instances that you may have. So definitely look into that when the Kingston release comes around, and install it in a developer instance or a test instance and give it a shot.
So, and probably the only thing that would be an issue for something like that, which was, it was the issue with the KB3 and it was the issue with, what was the other one I was going to talk about? Oh, with the scoped applications, is that sometimes you actually have to rebuild your old process before, and it sounds like right now we don't know of anything. It might be more like Jakarta, where we don't know of anything right now where Kingston is going to kind of require you to rebuild what you already have into a new tool. Is that correct?
So yeah, that's correct. These new diagram flows, from what little bit I've seen of it, may require you to take existing workflows and build them out in this new design tool. But again, it does appear to be codeless, so hopefully that'll bring some great enhancements and help all those admins and devs out there that are still learning the ropes on how to get into coding on ServiceNow.
Sure, and it's worth mentioning we don't know if it is or not at this point. It's just that's something that if you were going to look into, maybe one area that you'd want to try and focus your research. Correct?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, and I had another question about the Cerna Doc tool regarding the SOAP and REST messages. Are you able to kind of open that up again and take a look and just maybe go into a little bit more detail about what specific information that tool has that other tools might be, or that other people may want to be aware of?
Yeah, definitely. Since we're moving to a lot of integrations and ServiceNow supports those, let me definitely show you how the Cerna Doc tool can help you with those web integrations. So here's Cerna Doc again. This is the report that was generated. So if we go down here and on global, and I'm going to scroll through here real quick, and I'm going to see if I can find some SOAP or REST. So here's a REST message right here. It looks like we made a change to a code search, and it lists out the endpoint as well as who created the REST message. So if we click on it, we should be able to drill down and see all of the details around that. Get all of the header information, the authentication, as well as any headers and methods that were used. And again, we can click out to this endpoint and actually look at the code on the endpoint itself. So that's a great tool for documenting your entire instance, and it even takes care of all those web integrations and all those endpoints that you have. Do we have any other questions, Tim?
Yeah. Just one more. Someone had mentioned that they are planning on upgrading from they're planning on upgrading to the enterprise version of ServiceNow. That sounds like a kind of a different process than what we're talking about here. Can you speak to that?
From the Express version?
I would assume that's what they mean. Yeah, they had mentioned that they were upgrading to enterprise.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So the upgrade from Express to Enterprise is a bit more involved than if you're already on the Enterprise version. ServiceNow Enterprise brings lots and lots of new features over the Express version, and so upgrading is definitely something that you're going to want to get with the Hive team about, ServiceNow support, and have them give you a hand on getting that upgrade taken care of. Do make sure you back up your update sets as well, and make sure that you check all of the release notes as the upgrade from Express to Enterprise can be a bit more involved. So just make sure you do your homework and you follow the tips here that I outlined.
All right, I think that's really all the questions that we have right now. Thank you everyone again for watching this presentation. We greatly appreciate it, and we're very happy that you were able to join us for this. If you have any additional questions and would like to reach out to us about anything that we talked about today, and you're just curious and want some more information, or if you'd like to talk to us about what specific services we can offer to help you with that, you can definitely go to www.cernasolutions.com or email us at info@cernasolutions.com, or even call us by phone at 844-804-6111. You can also go to our YouTube channel if you like these webinars to see any of the other webinars that we have done. If you're interested in being contacted when another webinar goes up, go ahead and just click like and subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you guys very much, and have a great day.